Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. This week on the Good Morning Portugal Show with Carl Munson, back in September of 2022, we talk about the reptilian brain, how we react to perceived threats to our ego, and learning to override our genetic programming to manage our egos. So I invite you to please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
We both like that little twang at the end there, don't we? How are you? Oh, we're here.
Less twang. I always go.
Ring. Good morning. Hola, bom dia. Alegria. Tudo bem, James? How are you, my
It's
friend?
going very well, thanks, as always.
Good. Excellent stuff. And what's on your mind this morning? Of course, quite the momentous day around the world, whether you're British from the UK or not. A lot of eyes fixed on probably the biggest televised funeral in history. And of course, Portugal having declared 3 days of mourning as well because of the relationship between the UK and Portugal. Are your thoughts connected in any way with that, or are they unconnected, disconnected to that?
Well, given that my view is that everything's connected, in
Yes.
some way it probably is connected,
Yes.
but it wasn't. My thoughts were not led to the Queen or the funeral or any of that in thinking about what I wanted to talk about today.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, what did you want to talk about today? And before you do, may you introduce your new Cue This feature, please?
Well, with all the Will Rogers quotes, as much as I enjoy them, I realize that there are many, many, many quotes over the years that have actually inspired and influenced me and hence my counter partner, Slug. So the Cue This is actually an acronym for quotes that have inspired Slug. QTH.
Okay.
So and I thought, okay, there's a play on words. Cue this, set it up, put it up. Here it is. So that's the new feature. Is just basically now Slug is representing the quotes that have inspired him.
Well, thank you. We will look forward to those. And there's just something about inspiring quotes, isn't there? We see them as chapter headings in books. I always like to see a little bit of an inspirational quote before a chapter begins in a book, usually of the personal development kind. But they have an enduring quality, don't they? These wonderful quotes. And you're sharing some with us.
I think they become quotable by virtue of that. There's power in the words that people resonate with, and so they get repeated.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, indeed. Okay, so we'll look forward to those. Your T-shirt is already being loved. You are here to. Where'd you get that from?
It was actually part of the. I've shown it before, but it was part of the marketing campaign of a nonprofit called Earth Island Institute, and the image of the Earth with the black background representing that Earth is an island in space. We get this sense that it's some big thing underneath our feet, but in truth, it's just another ball of mass in the infinity of space. So I love the idea that you are here because this is where we are. And when you look in space, while more and more we're finding there's other planets like it, so far as we know, it's the only and I use the word intelligent life rather loosely.
Yes, well done.
But habited by intelligent life. So it's a very, very rare jewel in space. And to me, my joke with You Are Here is that it always helps to remind me I don't get lost when I wear this shirt. but I really love the marketing campaign of that year where they used the Earth Island to represent their organization.
Very good. So you are here. Nice little reminder there. For your thoughts from the Redwoods this morning, what's been on your mind?
Well, for a while, I've been working on the identity that we refer to often as ego, and the role that ego plays in much, if not all, of the conflict, interpersonal and worldwide. So I really wanted to be able to speak to that because to me, well, first I should probably define what I mean by ego, because there's a lot of different meanings to it. For me, I define ego as that part of us that identifies us as individual. So the me, the I that I refer to could also be referred to as ego. When I say I do this, or, in the caveman style, me want, whatever, the me, it is me. The ego is the sort of foundational aspect of that. And developmentally, research has shown that ego is fairly well formed by the age of 4 years old. And it's that separation process of identifying myself as separate from my siblings, separate from my parents, but still the identity is I am my family. And then developmentally later it becomes I am someone with friends, and screw the family, and that's usually called adolescence.
What a brilliant definition.
Yes. So it tends to continue to evolve, but it's primarily formed by age 4. And I say that because when I look at ego and an ego reaction, it typically looks like a 4-year-old would look in terms of the attitude it has and the words it's saying. No matter what our age, when ego is running the show, it's essentially how I explain it. It's just a 4-year-old running the show in the moment, even though it looks like an adult body. We talked last week a little bit about, maybe more than a little, about the reptilian brain, which is sort of the fundamental survival brain, and then the limbic brain, which is got a little bit of how do you take care of the offspring so they don't die, but it's not about love and affection, it's just about survival. I think ego is just a slightly more advanced stage of the brain development, in that there is a consciousness of me separate from something else that doesn't exist in all life forms. So somewhere in there, ego is, but it's still pretty primitive, still very close to the caveman.
Yes.
So it is primarily emotional survival. It's the identity of me. So it's who I am. And because it's attached to survival, when that identity feels threatened, it has the same reaction as when we feel threatened currently. It wants to attack, it wants to defend, or it wants to disappear. And you can see that consistently when there's two egos battling each other. One person may say, well, you're stupid, which means I'm smart because you're not. So that's my ego now threatening your ego. I'm threatening your identity, telling you that you are something that you may not identify with. Now, if you believe you are stupid, it may not be a threat, but typically we want to react. So that reaction is going to be, I'm either going to attack back, oh yeah, well, you're stupid, or I'm going to defend. It's like, I got straight A's, right?
Yes.
Or I'm going to hide. I'm going to go, screw you, I'm out of this. I'm not going to talk about this. And that's basically it. Those are more or less the three options that ego has when it feels threatened. Now, ego isn't all bad. When ego feels acknowledged and recognized, I say it purrs like a kitten, right? It's just like, oh yeah, ooh, purr, 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 right?
Yes.
But that's ego as well. But the reason that ego has become so important in my thinking and working with, particularly with relationships with couples, with parents and kids, and then people in general, and why I say even globally, is that in my opinion, all conflict is sourced in ego. All
Yeah.
conflict is me being right, you being wrong. I'm better, you're worse. I'm smarter, you're dumber. I'm one up, you're one down. It's this all this positioning to uh, claim a space for an identity that says I deserve to be here, and that's because I'm better than you, or I know more than you, or whatever. And so conflict is one ego battling another ego. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. And you look at world power and wars, it's the same thing. We are better than you, or we need these things more than you need those things.
Yes.
And so to me, the question is, how do we get around that? How do we stop doing that? How do we not react from ego when attempting to resolve the issues that face us? So to me, I refer to that as learning to manage our ego, because ego is going to be there, and ego's not a bad thing. It's how we identify who we are, so it's not a bad thing. It's just we don't want that angry, defensive, attacking ego running the show.
Yes, and I think it's great that you mention it at all, because then we could get a greater understanding. I mean, nothing in itself is bad, is it? It's how it's used and how it's balanced in its use, I would have thought, that we could safely say about it. Ego is also personality. And when you were talking about how it's captured or created in the first 4 years, I was reminded of that. I don't know if it's a psychotherapeutic saying, but it takes 4 decades to get over the first 4 years, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the creation of worldly personality, but also all the survival structures and survival mechanisms. And they're not all healthy, are they? I mean, I've been doing quite a lot of work on this myself recently. I've had quite a time.
We don't. I mean, the theory of evolution, especially when you're talking about long cycles of reproduction, can take thousands of years. And so, referring back to the books that I referred to last week, the idea is that our capacity to evolve is much slower than our circumstances demand.
Yes.
So, now we're trying to run quote unquote civilized world, but we're still essentially mostly cave people inside. So how do we do that? And that forces us into this state of greater self-awareness, so that we can, again, the repeated cycle of notice, choose, and act. We have the capacity to do that beyond, as far as I know, any other living species on the planet. I don't know enough about chimpanzees and dolphins to know if they have that capacity or not, but humans certainly do have that capacity, where other less developed beings don't. They just exist based on their intuition, or based on their instinct, or whatever that is. That's how they function and survive. We have that added advantage of being able to rewrite our programming, or at least overwrite it. We can say, all right, my instinct is to punch you in the nose, but I can overwrite that and say, that's not really going to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. Why do I want to punch you in the nose is a good question for me to look at. And it's like, because I see your ego challenging my ego. So now my ego wants to fight you because I need to be better than you, or you can't tell me I don't have a right to exist. So if we can begin to manage that, which is an ongoing process, because ego doesn't go away. And it's, like I said, it's not a bad thing, because it's a part of who we are. It helps us to identify something unique or special that we might have to offer the world that someone else may not have to offer. So ego is a part of that. It's just that reactive ego that we're talking about, that the times where ego feels challenged, how do we manage that? And that takes practice. For me, it started with, do I really need to assert myself here?
Yes. Yeah.
So
and reminders, which is what you do. We're very grateful for the reminder as well to look at how this phenomenon exists, and what effect it might have, to not only understand it, but to practice life in a different way based on that understanding. You had me certainly on long cycles of reproduction, as I suspect you did with a few others as well. a little bit earlier on. And I think this will continue. We were talking about the caveman, weren't we? And now we've developed some thoughts on top of that about the ego. So I presume next week there'll be the further development in how this can be
Yes, I'd love to
observed.
continue. Yeah. And just to conclude today, I want to add that there are subtle forms of ego assertion that tend to be challenging another person's ego, that we all tend to do, which is express our opinions that are counter to other people's opinions, if that is a personal assault on someone else's opinion. We correct people. That is a very subtle way of asserting, I know more than you know. I'm going to correct you. So when we do that in public, now we're challenging the other person's ego because, well, maybe it doesn't even have to be in public, but we're saying, I'm better than you, or I know more than you, you're wrong. And all of those are ego statements. So when we feel the need to correct somebody, that's a good moment in terms of the practice of managing ego. That's a good moment to take a look. Why do I need to correct this person? What is going to change as a result of that? Is it even necessary? And I found myself getting much quieter when I see ego starting to go. It's like, I'm only one, and I don't know how many hundreds of billions of humans that have existed in the history of the planet. My words aren't going to really have an impact on this, so just leave it alone.
Very good. Okay. If only more people could do that, James.